Ever since I cut the mold in half, I've had to tidy up wherever there was a join in the mold, and consequently it became a slight mar on my end product, and this is no exception. This area here has been pretty ugly ever since I popped that deck out, and what happened was it actually gripped and stuck in the mold right here. You can see this is the join. This is where it's stuck all the way over here. Now I've sanded this back, and I've sanded it right back, and you'll notice here, right here is where it's stuck, and that was enough to keep this 1,300 kilo deck in the mold. So it's time to fix it. And what I've got to do basically, because I can't just spray this part, I may as well spray the whole lot because I've had some other repairs to do here. Essentially, I've got some flow coat mixed up downstairs. I'm going to spray this whole backrest here. I'm not that concerned about the actual seat under the seat cushion, because that's going to be a cushion and some hatches along there, so that's going to be pretty easy to fix. But it's more important that I get this part sprayed up again. This is sort of the beginning of the end of the stern, and essentially once I finish spraying this part here, this top part from the green line up, I'll then be ready to start to finish off the back. It's not going to take me that long. It's only a day's work on each sugar scoop or each hull extension to get that finished, and then starts the polishing. But you know, luckily I don't have to do that. Janet's offered to do all that. I'm just going to keep moving forward. But for now, I'm just going to spray this top part over the top all the way down to where the cushions sit, and then we can start to work on how we're going to integrate the rest of it. Spraying flow coat is a pretty simple process. However, it's vital that when you come to apply another coat in the future, that the wax that's present in the original flow coat is removed to ensure good adhesion of the subsequent coats. This can be achieved by sanding the surface sufficiently, and then a simple acetone wipe will ensure the wax is removed ready for top coating. Now, I use a HVLP gun for spraying flow coat. It's a pretty simple process, but it's very important also to make sure that the gun is cleaned adequately in between spraying flow coat and then gel coat later on. You don't want any residue of wax left in the gun after each of these coats. The other thing too is that I do lower the pressure down to around 60 psi to make sure that I get good even spray fan with the HVLP gun. It is actually quite difficult to spray. You need a nozzle of around about 2.5 millimeters to ensure you get good delivery of the material. Well, I had a massive session in here yesterday, sanded the entire roof of the coach house and started on around the windows. Now, I've come in this morning. What I did do while I was doing that is I actually faired and sanded the refrigerator cabinet over there. I've just masked up around it, and basically I'm going to give it a layer of gel coat and then a secondary layer of flow coat. So while I've got it all masked up, I'll get that done this morning. It'll only take an hour or so to get it sprayed initially. It might need a subsequent spray. What I'll do is I'll do one layer of gel coat all over it, let that set for a couple of hours, come back and then do a layer of flow coat. And what that'll do is give me the ability then to be able to get straight in and polish it. It is already pretty fair, so I'm hoping not to have to do too many sprays on it. It's not that difficult to mask it up. I'm going to leave it all masked up. I don't need access to that area today, and while I can get that done, it'll be a really big win to get this part of the boat done. thing's for sure, you never get the same experience twice when you're spraying gel coat. The first layer went on reasonably well. There's a couple of little pinholes. I went and squirted it. So I went down, cleaned the gun out, did a total clean out, stripped it back, totally cleaned it out. And I don't often do that. I often am able to clean it without actually stripping it. Totally stripped it, put it back together, filled it with flow coat, which is wax and styrene mixed with my gel coat. And it came out at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I got a bit of an orange peel affair. So that's not a problem because I've got enough material on there. It just means there's going to be a bit of sanding involved. There was always going to be sanding and polishing, but that's, yeah, it looks a bit like the Raptor coat. Just enough to make me want to cry. But what do? You know, you just got to keep going. You can't stop midstream, because if you do, you're going to end up with the shit everywhere. And, you know, essentially that is just a horrible texture. But it's going to polish back because I've got just the person for that job. And Janet loves it. So while she's loving it, I'm going to use that to my advantage. This here, although it is orange peely, will polish back really, really quickly just with some 120 grit sandpaper, and hopefully that's sort of going to deal with all of that margin there. But you know, I've got a consistent look at least. It's the same all over, but it's going to need a shitload of polishing. But yeah, that's okay. We're up for it, and it's done. It'll never need doing again. I'm telling you now, that is going to look unreal with our stainless steel fridge and a nice, either a Corian top or some type of wood top. I don't know yet. I'll potentially put a Corian top on it, but you got to ask yourself, you know, do I want to add so much more weight with Corian? I've got some sort of 6mm Corian I could probably use, and that might look pretty good. I'm thinking the top part here is going to be a Laminating affair, but yeah, that's it looks good from back here. It looks awful up front. So after a couple of hours of sanding, I've got this down to a pretty nice finish, and we've got a couple of spots here where it's worn through, so it will require a further coat of flow coat to achieve the best result. You can see over here where there is orange peel, it's simply a matter of getting a torture board, fairing flat over the top in a long and constant fashion to achieve a good result prior to the final spray up. In this area where the Raptor will come down, it will meet the flow coat finish, so I'll need some detailed masking and sanding to get it looking right. I came up yesterday. Janet was inside the saloon, so I couldn't work in there and make a lot of noise and dust, but I got all excited and I came up and thought I'll finish the seam that I cut open over a year ago now. I split the deck, and you'll remember how I split it from about that third stanchion base back all the way along here to gain an extra 15mm to make it match the hull. Now it matches perfectly, and what I did this morning was I came in and laminated it. So it's actually had 2 layers of 600 double bias and 1 layer of finishing cloth, and then with peel ply to finish it off. And it basically has now come to the point where I'm able now to just sand that down and fair it and gel coat it and get it finished. I've been able to do exactly that. I've actually now sanded this down, and you'll feel that I haven't actually lost the fair all the way across. There is a slight divot in it, but now I'm going to have to work on some fairing compound on this all the way along here. And this one's actually longer because I had to get further. I had to get about 2 centimeters of spread to make it match the hole, but now I basically am ready to be able to put some fairing compound on it all the way along here, all the way along, to blend this back in and make it all look like it never happened. Now what I've also done is I've also grinded off all of the flange, and you can see it down there on the ground. It's a bit messy down there all the way across here because I'm trying to work out how I'm going to join the front of the bridge deck to the deck and all the way across here. I've still got a little bit of work to do over here. Janet's still got to get back in there and finish the laminating of this part here. But yeah, there's been quite a bit going on here, and as you can see, we've got our windows there, and they were pretty essential to have that plastic windows in place so that when I was grinding here, the dust didn't go back into the boat. honestly, the dust I created yesterday was absolutely out of this world. You can see it on the beams on the tent over here. We've got some serious spider action happening in here as well. So now I'm able to just rip this off and reveal that the whole boat is now one piece for the first time. And right down onto the bow here, yeah, pretty happy with that. That's going to be great. So that'll just take an hour or so of sanding to get all of this margin sanded back, some fairing compound, and then I can begin the restoration process of the complete split of the deck. It was a pretty horrendous thing to have to do, but it did have to be done nonetheless, and it has actually enabled me to have my deck and my hull almost have a perfect join, which means I didn't have that underbite that I was worried about, or overbite it was going to be in fact. Janet and I made the nacelles for the bow of the boat, the big wave breakers. The only problem is I've got this truck in the way, so I've got to lower the truck. I've just propped the boat. It's now sitting on blocks and tyres and pallets and the like, and I'm going to drop these right out of the way, and I should be able to install them without actually moving the truck. Originally I thought I was going to move the truck back, but hopefully I don't have to do that now. Essentially I'm able to drop this entire support away right down to as low as I can get it, and then I should be able to then install the nacelles. Never a dull moment. These acroprops have got to drop right down, so we've got to remove the pumps or the jacks to make it lower, and the acros are too long, so now I've got to dig a hole. So I've dug one here. Might have to go a bit deeper than that.
Oh, of course, it's so exciting.
Oh, there's a freaking shovel there. Look at that. Get out of here.
Ross has been using a lot of rocket science this morning.
You knew that, didn't you? You just want to watch me digging a friggin' hole.
No, it's just...
You enjoyed that, didn't you?
There's a lot of rocket science been going on this morning.
You're loving this, aren't you?
Yeah, Ross did the fairing yesterday of the roof.
Got the shits.
And he's a bit tired and cranky.
And I've just started cutting up the deck mould that's pissing down. I just need something else to do. Something big.
And then he's looked at it and went, how can I make this as hard as possible? Oh, I know, I'll dig it with a hammer rather than a shovel.
It's actually easier with a hammer on it. It's compacted gravel. Far out. Peeing down, I want to cut my mould up. Alright, I've got my nacelles for up on the bow of the boat, my wave breakers, and they have a pretty rugged flange on them. This flange here is going to be integrated into the hull of the boat, and then this bit obviously has to be trimmed off, and then I'm going to have to sand back from there all the way back to here, so that when I join it to the hull, I can actually glass. Firstly I'll epoxy it in place, screw it in place, remove all the screws, and then come back and then tab it from here to here, and then be able to fair it back in. There's going to be a ton of work to be done on that, but it's going to look amazing with these two big wave breakers. I've already lowered the truck up here. I'll just take you for a walk up here, up onto the bow. If you have a look here, I've lowered my truck so that I can get room to work. I was going to roll the truck out, but I've found that it's better to lower it. These are going to go right up to the bow, right up to the forward end of the boat. These are only about 7 kilos each, so I've made them reasonably light so that we can get them in place and they don't add too much bow weight, but they're very, very strong. They're like 3 layers of 600 double bias, and they're not heavy at all. So I've made them light, and then by the time I tab them in, they won't be much heavier than they are now. You know, for 15 kilos up on the front, that's quite a substantial benefit to a solid bridge deck catamaran. So I'll get my grinder, grind all the edges off, then I can position them, I can screw them in place, mark the outline, then go and sand and prepare underneath. I'll also have to flow coat the inside of these because we're never going to see the insides of them again. I'm trying to establish the position, and these are a little bit decorative, but also have the ability to disperse waves from slamming up under the deck there. Now, I've got a couple of issues. I've got a number of compartments up above here that require drainage, and before I put in the bulkheads and put the deck down, I actually drilled the holes through the drain so I know where they are. These ones here, that one there, and this one here are the anchor locker. This one here is the one adjacent to the anchor locker, and similarly on each side. Also got another one here. Now these will have a cup, like a scupper, just underneath here, and I've got a couple of those actually up in the factory. I'm going to make some fiberglass ones so that I don't end up with any rust stains on the bottom of the boat here. Basically, I'm just going to make them fiberglass, glue them on, fare them in, and then they'll never actually be a problem. I can clean them out pretty readily. But what I don't want is I don't want water dripping into here, so I can't position it sort of equally in the center in line, say with the braces down the middle with the stringers down the bottom of the center of the hull there. So what I'm intending to do is I'm actually going to move them outboard just a little bit, and that'll give me the chance to make sure that those drains are clear and that this nacelle never actually gets water in it ever. So this has been sanded back. I need to pin this up here with a screw or something onto the hull here, probably a little bit further back, and then I can screw it up down at the back. I can mark the outer margins, and then I can prepare the actual hull. So what I need to do is basically, once it's pinned in place, I can actually mark it, and then I can prepare the hull both where this glues and also back to where it's going to fare in. It's going to be a bit of a prick of a job overhead, particularly at this height, but you know, nothing I haven't done before. Just every time I turn around, there's another overhead sanding job. But this is the finishing touches of the hull. I've left this for a long time, and essentially it's going to end down here. Now we have anti-slip on our hull. I guess that's there in the event of a capsize. That just does my head in to think that you'd actually need anti-slip on the hull. I think if that happened, that'll be about the least of your problems. But I will be putting in some U-bolts up here somewhere on each end so that I can attach a jackstrap line in there, just in the event of a capsize. We can actually have something to hold on to in here. I'm not really sure that's even a good idea. I don't really think about that. Good luck finding a jackstrap if you capsize. Good luck finding anything if you capsize. So the other one's over here, and you can see my drain hole here. The light's not great under here. I've got a couple of work lights on here, and it is a very dark day. We've had a wild weekend. And another drain right there. So this one will be in the same position. So I'll just establish the position of this one. It looks pretty flash. I've got to be honest, they look amazing. And luckily this came with the molds, because they used these on the last cat they made. In fact, it was a power cat, and they're pretty common on power cats. The reality is I'm putting it on here because I know what it's like to be in a catamaran when it's slamming, and I just don't want that. I want this to really give me the opportunity to negate a little bit of the movement of the water as it comes in. I want it to sort of splash around rather than to go bang. So you never ever get a run on things. Last night I started grinding that. We had another visitor, and it was great to see him. I haven't seen him for about a year. He's my nephew, and I love him, and it was just so good to catch up with young Haz. Janet's going to flow coat the nacelles. They're there, and I'm going to have her up in the factory tomorrow morning flow coating those so I can get them fitted. Basically, we're flow coating the whole insides of them so they can't carry mold. We want to waterproof the entire inside of those nacelles, just in case they get condensation or the like in them. We will probably put a drain or a vent in it because it is a hollow chamber attached to the boat. We don't want pressure build up on a hot, stinking tropical day. We want to allow it to vent off, even if we can find a one-way valve or something to put in it. Now, flow coating will actually prevent 90% of that mold. If I just leave it as raw fiberglass for the majority of it, it's going to get mold in it. So I'm going to circumvent that now. Don't have to rip these off and rebuild them at some point because I won't have the mold. So yeah, so I'll get grinding now. I'm going to make a hell of a lot of noise for a while, and we'll get into it.
So I've just taped the edges ready. That's where it's going to stick onto the boat, through onto the boat. I've just cleaned it up, ready for me to flow coat the rest of it.
They're on fire. So in here too, there's a drip and a bit of a thin spot there. It doesn't really matter. Cool.